So if I learned anything by filming and editing a reading vlog, it is that as much as I don't like filming, I do like editing, but also that I need to be more casual, or not even need to be more casual, I want to be more casual. I think that would help when it comes to splicing together a coherent video. I wouldn't have to cut as much. And also it takes the pressure off myself. I want this to be fun. The minute it's not fun, we're stopping. And that's another thing. How many times can I say or and how many times can I actually cut that out? I'm not gonna stress about that. Instead, I'm going to have just a sort of chatty little video in which I talk about 5 authors who I want to read more from in 2025. And yes, I know it's April, but I wasn't here for the first 3 months of the year. I think with this video being about authors I want to read in 2025, it would be remiss of me if I didn't start with the author who I kicked off the year with, and that is Clarice Lispector. I can't even remember when I really heard about Clarice Lispector for the first time. I believe it might have been on Mauve ASMR's channel, but since then, I have become sort of fascinated with her and her life. I read her novel, The Apple in the Dark, earlier this year, and yes, like 90% of that book went over my head, but I enjoyed every minute of it. Actually, that's a lie, not every minute of it, but I did have a really good time reading it. I believe that is her longest work, and the next book that I have, Agua Viva, is actually her shortest. And if it is not her shortest, please correct me. I don't know if it's easy to describe Clarice Lispector's writing style. From the one book that I've read and from what I know of her, there's a bit of the speculative. It's very psychological, it's very philosophical. There's a sense of stream of consciousness that probably makes for a difficult, or at least uncomfortable, reading experience at times. I know when I read The Apple in the Dark, I just kind of turned off a part of my brain that wanted to pick apart plot and characters and just went with it. And that was the best way for me to approach that book. Going in an entirely different direction, we have a sci-fi fantasy author, and that is Kritika H. Rao. I haven't seen much conversation going on around this author, which I find interesting because I in particular really did enjoy her first novel, The Surviving Sky. The world that she has created in this series is fascinating. The earth is not inhabitable, and so people have moved up to sky civilizations in which there are these great cities built out of greenery and different living plants. Certain individuals within the societies have the ability to enter something called the moment, and it is this state of being in which they can see all the pinpoints of life throughout the universe and sort of call on them to compel them to bend shape and form different structures. At least for the first book that I've read, I thought the author did a really good job of balancing this very plot-driven novel with this more introspective, character-driven story about these two people who are trying to keep their marriage from falling apart. I read The Surviving Sky at the end of 2023. I was fortunate enough to get an arc of it, and almost immediately after I pre-ordered The Unrelenting Earth. However, I have not read it yet. If I reread the first book and annotate it and refresh myself on the world and the magic system, I'll be better situated to go into this sequel, and then also the final book, which is coming out in the summer. The next author I want to read more from this year is going to be Tove Jansson. Tove Jansson is probably best known for the Moomins franchise, which is novels and comics, and there's even a Moominland Park in Japan that I would kill to go to. Not only was she a novelist and a comic artist, but she was an artist in general. She's very well known for her murals, her paintings, and she really did it all. I started reading the Moomin books last year, and I'm about halfway through the series or so. But they have been a huge source of comfort since I started them. The sense of community and care that the characters show one another, the bits of humor and wisdom that Tove Jansson imparts on readers, I really admire. I've read one biography on the author, and it was interesting for sure, but I find myself more interested in reading her actual work. So, aside from the Moomin books, I have read Fair Play, which is a novel almost told in vignettes, or like pieces of short stories. And then I also have gotten The True Deceiver. Ariel and Raylene were discussing this novel on their podcast Books Unbound, and I already knew I liked Tove Jansson, and so it sounded like it would be a perfect book to pick up and save for like a really cold, wintry day this year. Her writing isn't flowery by any means, but there is a musical cadence to it. It's very evocative, and you get a good sense of emotion and the land. But yes, highly recommend Tove Jansson. And if you have not read the Moomins books or watched the 1990s anime, what are you doing with your life? Going back to a more sci-fi fantasy author, we do have Sharon J. Zhao. Now, I read their novel Iron Widow just a couple of months ago, and yes, I had problems. Was the messaging heavy-handed? Yes. Were there any standout female characters besides the narrator? No. Did the two male members of the love triangle receive proper attention? Questionable. However, I listened to an interview the author gave before starting the book that really influenced my reading experience. And so a lot of the issues that I actually do have, to me at least, they make sense. With the sequel, Heavenly Tyrant, I think there is great possibility for some of those critiques to be remedied, for female characters to have stronger voices and personalities. Also, I'm optimistic about some of my problems with the first book being handled better here, because this book is so much longer than Iron Widow. So hopefully the author had more time and space to expand on what they were originally going for in the first book. And the last author who I want to read more from in 2025 is actually the author I've read most recently, and that's Robin Hobb. I just finished Assassin's Apprentice the other day and really did enjoy it. I think there's a lot of room to grow the world of the Six Duchies, as well as the characters and their relationships. And clearly Robin Hobb does that, because otherwise she wouldn't have a 16-book series. That is the only hesitation I have, is that the Realm of the Elderlings is so long. It's a 16-book series that is divided into 5 smaller series, 4 trilogies, and then 1 4-book series. My goal for this year is to at least read the Farseer trilogy. Maybe not rush through it, but in between some of my other smaller reads, try to tackle these behemoths. There you have it. These are 5 authors who I have been enjoying recently and really do want to read more of. Hopefully I've made it easier on editing Coco. Thoughts and prayers, girl. If you're also a fan of any of the authors I've talked about, or have read any of the books I showed, let me know what you think of them. I would love to get more information on those and to just engage with people about books.